All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. A new English book on Takamatsu Sensei and why, how, and what does it mean, how we're going to do this. Well, first of all, the idea is there is a lot of things about Takamatsu Sensei we want to know, we would like to know. Most of the time, the things we learn here and there, of course, they're said by Hatsumi Sensei and conveyed by most of the Shihan. In my case, I've been very, very lucky and fortunate to be very close with Ishizuka Sensei because I've heard firsthand many good things, and everything I had a chance, of course, after to maybe double check, triple check with Hatsumi Isoke in order to know more about the man. But we need to know, and something very interesting is 90% of the information we have here and there are always the same and they come from the same sources. First one is known as the Shinden Shuraro Po, so it's a kind of text that Takamatsu Sensei wrote for a magazine on martial art called Budo Shunju that doesn't exist anymore, where in few pages he's giving the tram, let's say the skeleton of his life, how he starts, the reason he starts, how was the practice more or less with Toda Sensei, then Ishitani Sensei, then the fight with the Taijutsu, Musashi Ryu Taijutsu, how he lost his drum, and then after the reason why he went in China, not very much, and he gave also his vision, the vision of the way he loved martial art, the way he see martial art, the way he practiced martial art. You can see a translation of this in two things. First, in a very old journal, internal journal that Hatsumi Sensei used to do in the Bujinkan. We have, of course, the Tetsuzan, but before the Tetsuzan, we have the Bujin. And there is a translation of this. I think it was done by Ben Jones in the early 80s, no, early 90s, end of the 80s, early 90s. I'm sure that if you look the translation nowadays, you might do it again because, of course, when you translate at the very early beginning, at the very early stage of your career as a translator, and you look this after 10 years or 20 years, you can be sure there is things you might change. Lack of knowledge, lack of many things. Not saying that Ben Jones is bad, not at all, not at all. So here there is this version of the Shinden Shuraro Po. I had the chance to use it for my master degrees, and you can find a big part of the translation in my English book, the Ninja book, in the Total Publishing. So with this, there is also a series of different articles made by Koizumi Shizuo, who met Takamatsu Sensei back in the days, in the 60s actually, just very few months after the ninja boom started by the Shinobi no Mono movies with Raizo Ishikawa. And the Tokyo Sports newspaper, which deals with sports in general, sent him as a young journalist to cover the ninja boom and met different people. So that's, let's say, what we can find on Takamatsu Sensei. Then after you have few writers like Koyama Ryotaro, who have met Takamatsu Sensei because he did some research and wrote two books, I mean many books, but one on ninjutsu for example, and one also on the Kengo. Kengo is every master of swordmen such as Miyamoto Musashi, Yagyu Nori, Kaimi, Izumi Sinokami, Isasacho Isai, etc. etc. So here is just to give you the background. There is no much. There is enough, but no much. Now it's how we're going to deal with this, how we're going to take this. So the book on Takamatsu Sensei is we're going to use everything where he's talking himself, phrase from him, phrase directly took from him with no filters, directly in Japanese with sometimes the Kansai Ben, because Takamatsu Sensei used to live in Nara and he used to talk with the Kansai Ben, so that kind of, we use the word in French, le patois, so the language of the area where he lived. We're going to use all those phrases, all those knowledge, and translate it as a book where we're going to explain many things about him from his mouth. And the only thing I'm going to add myself is every note, every explanation based, of course, on actual record, source, scroll, ninjutsu scroll, bujutsu scroll, chronicle, that will allow to, for example, have more depth, more wisdom, more knowledge about him. I had access to many things. Most of those things I always kept for myself. Then we've recently talked with Hatsumi Sensei and Ishizuka Sensei in December. They asked me to cover the thing, so I said, okay, I'm going to do it. There is one thing that everyone needs to know. There is something I hope one day we might have a look on that. It's called the Meiji Moroku Otoko. This is the true, only one, unique autobiography written by Takamatsu Sensei. I mentioned that name in my book, if you remember very well. And he gave this to Hatsumi Sensei. It's a little bit huge like this. Everything is written by hand. He explained many things. And I had the chance in 2002 to stay 2 hours with it. So I could read, I could open, I could check few things. I didn't have, let's say, the freedom to read it the way I would like. Hatsumi Sensei was just close, but thanks. That was a time when I had the chance to see the Scroll of the Nine Ryuha. That was at the same time. With this, what we're going to do, it's to try to rely, because I had the chance to write down a few things that Takamatsu Sensei wrote. The chance also to have a lot of correspondence too, and copy of the letter of Takamatsu Sensei. Some, of course, in the Bujinkan have some copy of Takamatsu Sensei's letter, of course. But what would be interesting is those people who have it, how did they translate it and how did they understand the background and the reason why? Because the thing is to understand the context, everything. Takamatsu Sensei said something, or he heard Toda Sensei said something to him. What is the context of that, the reason of that, and what is the purpose of that? Where, how you stretch this to your practice nowadays. So talking about Takamatsu Sensei is an honor, but at the same time I need to be very neutral and very straight on the way things needs to be done. So that's the first thing. Some people also ask why there is a first tome or a first level, because the title right now is Takamatsu Toshitsugu, Ninja Master of the 20th Century, His Thought, His Vision of Fight, Volume 1. And there's going to be a Volume 2. Why? Because you cannot put the only life of one man on only 200 pages. There is some restriction in the way to published, and especially it's going to be in English, so we need to take care of many aspects. The second volume, it's to put Takamatsu Sensei in the context of the ninja boom at the time it happened, and the people that the journalists have met while he met Takamatsu Sensei. And I won't talk too much about that because this is, of course, it's part of the second book, but the second book will be based, of course, with Takamatsu Sensei and the two people who have been involved in the ninja boom at those times. I hope you're going to like it. I hope you're going to learn. I hope you're going to see this. What is very interesting with Takamatsu Sensei, his words are very straight. At the same time, he have something like Hatsumi Sensei have. He mentioned things such as a historical name, such as a very deep, how can I say, philosophical concept, names, technical names, like for example, he might say the Yagyu Happobiken, and people who practice Shinkagyu may have never learned or heard about this aspect of Happobiken or Igaryu Happobiken, Happohiken Jutsu, with different kanji for the kanji of Happo. The ho sometimes can be the law, sometimes it can be the rules, or sometimes it can be the direction. So why has this? If you don't have the background, the historical context, the study of this, it's going to be very difficult to translate. So here again, give back to Caesar what Caesar deserves in a humble way. That's what we're going to try to do with this book and many other. I hope you're going to like it. I hope you're going to enjoy it. Everyone who loves Takamatsu Sensei, everyone who wants to know, to be behind his vision of the art.